It starts with the mechanical sound of the lock sliding into place. That singular, metallic click signals the immediate cessation of a performance you didn't even realize you were sustaining. The moment the door seals the outside world away, the invisible scaffolding holding your spine vertical seems to liquefy. It is not a gradual relaxation or a pleasant unwinding. It is a sudden, total system failure. You do not sit down, you descend. The bag drops from your shoulder, not because you decided to place it there, but because the neural command to maintain grip strength has simply evaporated. Your shoes feel heavy, like lead weights strapped to a diver who has been swimming too long against a current. You might find yourself sitting on the floor of the hallway or sinking into the nearest surface, staring at a blank wall for minutes that stretch into an undefined void. There is no active thought process here, no reflection on the events of the day. The brain has initiated a hard reset. The lights are on, but the operating system has crashed. You feel a distinct physical vibration in your chest, a humming of nerves that were pulled too tight for too long and are now snapping back into a slack, chaotic state. This is not normal exhaustion. Normal exhaustion asks for sleep. This state asks for non-existence. It demands a complete cessation of input. You are not just tired of working, or socializing, or navigating the noise. You are experiencing a profound physiological rejection of stimulus. The body has declared a state of emergency, diverting all energy from higher cognitive functions to basic vegetative survival. Yet this collapse is not random. It is a precise, calculated payment for a debt you incurred hours ago. To an observer, this transition looks indistinguishable from negligence. A partner, family member, or roommate witnessing this arrival sees a sudden, jarring shift in character that feels intensely personal. They see someone who walked through the door and immediately ceased to function. They see the shoes left exactly where they fell, the coat discarded on a chair rather than hung up, the absolute silence that greets a standard question. To them, this behaviour reads as a voluntary choice. They interpret the glazed look in your eyes not as a neurological reset, but as emotional indifference. They might ask, "How was your day?" and receive nothing more than a grunt or a monosyllabic deflection. They see you scrolling mindlessly on a phone while still wearing your work clothes, paralyzed on the edge of the sofa, and they label it as laziness. There is a specific, stinging accusation that often arises in these dynamics, that you are moody, antisocial, or deliberately shutting them out. The confusion is compounded by evidence of your capability elsewhere. They may have seen you laughing with a colleague on the phone 5 minutes before you arrived, or they know you are capable of high-performance focus in your professional life. The contrast creates a sense of betrayal. The logic of the observer is linear and demanding. If you have energy for the world, you should have energy for home. If you can manage complex logistics, navigate rush-hour traffic, and maintain social pleasantries with strangers, the inability to hold a conversation or put away a bag feels like an insult. They perceive your collapse as a withdrawal of affection. They assume that because you could perform out there, you are simply refusing to perform in here. They believe you are saving your best self for the public and offering your scraps to the private sphere. They do not realize they are witnessing the aftermath of a total resource depletion. They assume you are hoarding your energy, unaware that the vessel is not just empty, but imploding. The erosion begins long before the key hits the lock. It starts the moment you wake up and engage the protocol of acceptability. For the type of psychology prone to this specific collapse, the world is not a neutral environment to be traversed. It is a stream of potential sensory and social friction that must be actively managed. You are not simply attending a meeting, driving a car, or buying groceries. You are running a continuous background simulation of how you are being perceived, adjusting your tone, your posture, and your reactions to maintain a seamless interface. This is a state of chronic, imperceptible hyperarousal. Your nervous system is heavily biased toward high-frequency scanning. You are tracking the emotional temperature of the room, the subtle shifts in the tone of a colleague, the sensory irritation of fluorescent lights, or the erratic movements of a crowd. While others filter these inputs out automatically, your brain manually processes every single data point. It classifies them, assesses them for threat or demand, and then actively suppresses your natural physiological reaction to them. This suppression is the most expensive metabolic activity a human being can undertake. To appear calm when you are overstimulated, to appear interested when you are depleted, to appear consistent when your internal state is fluctuating. This requires a massive, continuous expenditure of glucose and neural resources. You are essentially operating a manual override on your own biology for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You do not feel this cost accumulating in real time because the adrenaline of performance masks it. The survival brain keeps the engine running hot to ensure you make it to the safety of the nest. You are running on borrowing. You are spending energy you do not possess, signing a physiological contract that demands repayment the second the threat, the external world, is removed. The fatigue you feel is not merely the result of work, it is the accumulated weight of a mask that has become heavy enough to crush the wearer. And this accumulation is not a failure of your endurance, it is the specific, non-negotiable price of the mechanism you use to survive. This phenomenon is chemically distinct from relaxation. Relaxation is a gentle down-regulation of the system, a pleasant shift into a restorative state. What you are experiencing is a parasympathetic overshoot. It is a violent overcorrection orchestrated by your autonomic nervous system. In psychology, this specific dynamic is often identified in children as restraint collapse, the tendency to hold behavior together perfectly in the high-pressure environment of school, only to melt down the moment they are in the safety of the parent's care. In adults, the mechanism is identical, but the manifestation is silent and implosive. Throughout the day, your prefrontal cortex, PFC, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, decision-making, and social modulation, is exercising intense inhibitory control. It is the brake pedal that prevents you from reacting authentically to stress. It creates the delay between feeling an irritation and smiling at a client. It creates the pause between wanting to scream and speaking calmly. This inhibitory control is a finite resource. It is fuel dependent. When you enter your home, your brain registers a specific environmental cue: safety. In a neurotypical context, safety signals the ability to rest. But for a nervous system that has been hyper-regulated all day, safety signals the permission to cease all function. The brain detects that the social threat is gone. It recognizes that the performance is no longer required for physical survival. Consequently, it cuts power to the prefrontal cortex instantly to conserve glucose. You swing violently from high sympathetic arousal, fight, flight, or perform, directly into a dorsal vagal shutdown. The dorsal vagal state is the oldest, most primitive setting in your neural hierarchy. It is the immobilization response. It is designed to preserve resources when an organism is overwhelmed. It is a biological play-dead mode. This is why the collapse feels physical. You cannot will yourself out of a dorsal state any more than you can will your digestion to speed up. The chemicals flooding your system, heavy inhibitory neurotransmitters, create a physical gravity that makes simple movement feel nearly impossible. You are not choosing to stop. Your body has pulled the emergency brake because the engine was overheating. But if this mechanism is strictly a survival strategy designed to recover your energy, why does it feel so destructive? Why does this protective shutdown often feel less like a recovery and more like a slow, suffocating erasure of your own life? This is not a failure of discipline. It is a necessary physiological equilibrium. You view the collapse on the sofa as a malfunction, a glitch in the program of a successful life. But strictly speaking, it is the only reason the program is still running. The collapse is not a sign of weakness. It is the direct mathematical counterweight to the immense effort you exert to appear strong. The depth of your shutdown is directly proportional to the intensity of your masking. A person who wears a loose, authentic face during the day requires only a shallow rest at night. A person who constructs a total impenetrable persona requires a total vegetative collapse to sustain it. You are not lazy in your private hours. You are recovering from the athletic feat of being someone else for 10 hours straight. The brain is not refusing to work. It is sequestering resources to repair the circuitry you burned out by over-regulating your natural impulses. This reframe shifts the locus of the problem. You are not suffering from a lack of motivation at home. You are suffering from an excess of adaptation in the world. The you that lies paralyzed in the dark is not a separate, flawed entity. It is the waste product of the perfect version of you that the world applauds. The capable professional and the silent ghost are symbiotic partners. The ghost pays the bill that the professional runs up. The system works perfectly for your employer, and it works perfectly for your social standing. It keeps you safe, and it keeps you employed. The only thing it does not account for is you. You have built a survival strategy that secures your place in the world by systematically erasing your presence in your own sanctuary. This mechanism does not contain itself within the foyer of your home. Once the neural pathway for shut down as survival is established, it begins to colonize every aspect of your temporal existence. It expands outward, reshaping your calendar, your relationships, and your ability to experience pleasure, transforming your life into a binary system. You are either on and draining, or off and recovering. There is no middle ground. There is no gentle living. Consider the structure of your weekends. In theory, Saturday and Sunday are designated for leisure, exploration, and connection. But for the collapsed nervous system, the weekend is not a playground. It is a recovery ward. You do not wake up on Saturday morning with a sense of possibility. You wake up with a sleep debt that no amount of bed rest seems to clear. You may have plans, ambitions to hike, to paint, to see friends, to finish a personal project. But as the morning progresses, a heavy, invisible negotiation takes place. The brain calculates the caloric cost of leaving the house versus the safety of the couch. The couch wins, not because it is more fun, but because it is cheaper. You find yourself engaging in what is colloquially known as bed rotting or doom scrolling. This is not leisure. Leisure is restorative and active. It feeds the spirit. What you are doing is passive consumption. You watch hours of content you will not remember, not because you are interested, but because the screen provides a low-stakes external focus that distracts you from your internal exhaustion. You are numbing, not resting. The weekend evaporates in a grey fog of inactivity, and by Sunday evening, you feel a spike of anxiety, not just because work is coming, but because you realise you wasted your only opportunity to live. This pattern then infiltrates your social architecture. You begin to view friendship through the lens of energy economics. An invitation to dinner is no longer a promise of connection, it is an invoice. You calculate the cost. I have to shower, I have to commute, I have to perform interest, I have to regulate my facial expressions for 3 hours. The cost seems insurmountable, so you cancel. You send the text lying about a headache or a prior commitment. The relief is instantaneous, a hit of dopamine as the pressure releases, but it is followed immediately by the hollow ache of isolation. You are protecting your energy, yes, but you are also starving your need for connection. You become the flake, the unreliable friend, the person who drifts away. You are not antisocial, you are simply insolvent. Even your environment begins to reflect this internal bankruptcy. Look at the doom piles accumulating in your living space, the stack of unopened mail on the counter, the laundry that is washed but never folded, migrating from the chair to the bed and back again, the dishes soaking in the sink for 3 days. These are not signs of messiness, they are monuments to decision fatigue. Every single one of those objects requires a micro-decision. Open the bill, sort the paper, recycle the envelope. When you have spent 10 hours making high-stakes decisions or managing complex emotional landscapes at work, the decision to sort a piece of mail feels physically painful. Your executive function is overdrawn. You walk past the mess, seeing it, hating it, but completely unable to initiate the motor sequence to fix it. Perhaps most tragically, this mechanism devours your identity outside of productivity. You likely have hobbies you claim to love, an instrument in the corner, a stack of unread books, a sketchbook, a video game console. You identify as a reader or a musician or a gamer, yet for months you have not touched them. Why? Because high-friction leisure requires an initial input of energy. To read a complex book requires focus. To learn a song requires frustration tolerance. Your system has zero tolerance left. You choose the path of least resistance, the phone, the familiar sitcom rewatch, the silence, every single time. You are slowly shedding the parts of yourself that make you human, retaining only the parts that make you a function. The you that has interests, passions, and community is being cannibalized to keep the you that works and survives alive. The pattern is no longer just a way to handle a hard day, it has become the architect of a shrinking life. You are surviving the world, but you are ceasing to exist within it. The ultimate price of this survival strategy is not just lost time, it is the systemic atrophy of your capacity to feel. The human nervous system does not possess a specific switch for negative input. It has a master switch for intensity. When you habitually engage the dorsal vagal shutdown to survive your workday, you are not just muting anxiety or irritation. You are muting the entire spectrum of human experience. You cannot selectively numb the overwhelm while keeping the joy. To anesthetize the pain of the day, you must also anesthetize the resonance of connection, the spark of curiosity, and the warmth of intimacy. Numbing is non-selective. Over time, this creates a life that appears highly functional on paper, but feels like ash in the mouth. You may achieve the promotion. You may keep the peace in your relationship. You may maintain the pristine reputation of the reliable, stoic professional. But you are experiencing these victories through a pane of thick, frosted glass. You are present for the milestones, but you do not inhabit them. You find yourself smiling at a celebration, knowing intellectually that you should be happy, but physically feeling nothing but a distant, muffled static. You become a ghost in your own biography, watching your life happen to a character that looks like you, while the pilot seat remains empty. This adaptation also constructs a dangerous, seductive illusion, the myth of later. You tell yourself that this mode of existence is temporary. You convince yourself that once this project is submitted, once this chaotic quarter ends, once you get that specific raise, you will finally unlock the energy to be the person you want to be. You treat your current existence as a waiting room for a better life. But the neurology of collapse is habit forming. The brain becomes efficient at what it practices. By practicing shutdown every evening for years, you are actively training your nervous system to view engagement as a threat and numbing as the only safety. You are not saving your life for later. You are dismantling the machinery required to live it. The tragedy is not that the strategy fails. The tragedy is that it works too well. It keeps you safe from the overwhelm of the world, but in doing so, it seals you inside a capsule where nothing can touch you, not even the things that would make the survival worth the effort. You end up perfectly preserved, perfectly protected, and entirely unreachable. The room remains quiet. The lock on the door is still engaged. There is no sudden epiphany that clears the fog, no sudden surge of motivation that lifts you off the sofa. The nervous system does not negotiate with logic. It only responds to safety. And right now, for you, safety looks like silence. You sit there, suspended in the amber of your own exhaustion, aware of the mechanism but unable to dismantle it. The knowledge of why you collapse does not stop the collapse. It merely strips away the heavy layer of guilt, replacing the stinging accusation of laziness with the stark, neutral reality of biological debt. You see the transaction clearly now. The world gets your best, and you get the silence. This is the quiet equilibrium you have constructed. It is functional, it is sustainable, but it is profoundly lonely. The question that hangs in the heavy, stagnant air of the living room is not how to fix this tonight. The repair is too costly, and the hour is too late. The question is far more dangerous, lurking beneath the numbness, waiting for a moment of true clarity to surface. If the only way to survive your life is to disappear the moment you enter it, then who is actually living? You are the caretaker of a vessel that functions perfectly for everyone else. The lights are off, the engine is cold, and tomorrow the cycle will demand the exact same price. You close your eyes, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, waiting for a sleep that will reset the machine, but never truly recharge the operator.